tell me this absolutely doesn't get us where we need to go. Because what I've got to do is put together something that makes sense for people to respond to as of February 1st. The other set of issues that have arisen are looking at whether or not we should be looking at the enrollment and transfer policy. So that was not... You've got some additional data, and I'll just say when we set this in motion, so you've got some data that looks at enrollment and transfer impacts, both inside the Jefferson cluster and the rest of the district. When we set this in motion, the board has been methodically tackling the district cluster by cluster in terms of where we have over-enrollment, under-enrollment, and don't have sustainable programs. This was the year that we were tackling Llewellyn and Dunaway and the Jefferson cluster. Last year we did the Grant cluster. Enrollment and transfer policy was scheduled to come up at some point in the future. The board raised at their last meeting whether or not, that becomes an element in this conversation. So I just would say I welcome input on any of these topics, and I'm going to turn it back over to Carol Turner, who will lay out how we're actually approaching hearing the multiple perspectives in the room. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol, for setting the tone. Are there more chairs outside? If there are, at one point there were still a couple stacks of chairs, so if there's some, grab one and sit one. If you have a chair near you that's empty, that you could have someone come sit, there's a whole little table up free right here, there's some more over there. So please come on in, if you can. Okay, great. Also,
actually, there's one more thing I do want to just say, is the other thing that's a dynamic in the Jefferson cluster is all of our growth is in the lower grades. This is true of the district as a whole, where we're starting to be a inclining enrollment district, not a declining enrollment district, and we've got strength coming up in the lower grades. That still means our kids in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th are not getting access to the program they need to prepare them for high school. So that's part of the issue we're tackling, is both how do we sustain and nurture the growth that we're seeing coming into our schools, and we don't want to lose that, because there's been a huge amount of energy in your individual school communities building on that strength, and at the same time we've got programs that are too small, not enough kids to sustain robust programming at the middle grades. It's part of the conundrum we're in, and it's part of why we're looking for solutions that serve the kids we've got in those grades right now. So that's part of what we're grappling with, that I'm looking for your best thinking on.
thank you. On your tables and out on the main tables, there's lots of information. We want to make sure you sign in. And there's also feedback sheets. There's information on the transfer policy and several other pieces of information that you want to get. Hold on, just a sec. You'll get there. We'll start in and then we'll deal with that. Yeah, thanks. We will have Carol respond to that. So let me just get a few more things. Hold on. Just a few more things that we want to go over here before we do. So we ask that this more informal dialogue, we are here, respect each other, and we show respect. The purpose really is as many people get heard with as many different viewpoints as possible. Okay. Okay, if you give me about 2 more minutes, please, I'd ask. We do want to move as quickly as possible, so we ask that you be as brief as possible. You're welcome again to give your input onto the feedback sheets. Aaron will be recording your notes onto the screen, so you'll see your words on there. He wants you to know he's going to be typing very fast, so please excuse any typos. Also, we will give priority to people who've not spoken before. If we have enough time at the end and you've spoken once, then we'll come back to you. Please, when you speak, give your name and your role in the community. And also let us know if the mics are too loud or too soft on that. So, Hector, anything else?
No, I'm interested in just show of hands, folks who are okay with that protocol. And again, so we are going to turn it over to all of you to have a part of the conversation. But are folks generally okay with the ground rules and what I like to call creating community that Carol just outlined?
So here's what I will say. Like, we can do a lot of information providing. What I'm hoping for out of this is that you're informing what I go forward with. So we can start, and it may be that we switch it so people, let's see how we do with people asking for information. What I don't want to turn into is just an information going that, questions information, but we can start that way, if you like.
Yeah, that's the intention. So, folks who have stuff that they want to share. So, folks whoever wants to begin, raise your hand, and if you have something you want to share with Carol that you wanted to hear.
Well, one of the questions I have is, my name is Dee Simmons, and I'm a grandparent of a student at Beach, and I've watched school closures go on. I've also been a part of several of these meetings that are designed to make people feel like they have input, but it really isn't. So I'd like to know, how do we really know that being here is going to be input? What are we going to see that shows us that input was really taken and what we said is valuable?
So one of the things we'll bring back to the board meeting on Monday are the themes of things that we've heard. And I'm going to say, people have sent in to me emails that are saying, think about it this way, think about it that way. We don't want a school closure. How do you get critical mass in the middle grades? Like, I will tell you, or we like the middle school idea, but we don't want a year of transition where Ockley Green is closed. We want it to go straight to being a middle school. Like that kind of stuff where people are being very specific about this piece works, this piece doesn't, are really helpful. And you'll see it, you'll see each individual person in this room will not see your plan in mine. It's impossible. There are so many different perspectives and so many things that part of my job ends up being, how do I listen to the interests in this room and the multiple perspectives in this room and find something that gets as close as I can to meeting the needs of us as a whole, and of this cluster as a whole. But the more specific you are about the things that end up working for you, like that was the one I can call out very specifically, was the interested in the middle school option, but I don't want a year where something's closed. I want to go straight into a middle school, and I don't want interim kind of, now you move us here and now we're here. I just want to go straight to the new model. That was a helpful piece of input that's valuable and usable for me.
Got somebody here at this side of the room?
My name is Nick Finger. I've been involved since the summer, and I've been on the advisory group to Judy with regards to the process. And Carol, I feel like there's something that you're not seeing about that. I actually moved to this neighborhood in 2001, and I had the same fears that a lot of my neighbors have had about their neighborhood schools. My instinct was to go to private schools. I've actually got my master's in teaching and became an educator, because that's how serious I was about wanting to do right for my kids. I went to a private school, and then I went to a school that was supposed to be democratic. And a lot of my neighbors went to this school, and it's Trillium. The realization I've made as I have moved on from that place about the people there is what they wanted, what my neighbors around me wanted, was to be engaged in democracy, in the process. And this process, as someone on the committee, was started with, you will have the third level of 5 of engagement. That was given. You will only be involved. There are 2 levels higher that are possible, which is collaboration, and the highest is, I believe, is engagement. It's my opinion that if we continue without a higher level, we'll have a missed opportunity to bring more people into the neighborhood schools. That's what our neighbors are saying. They want to be part of this. As a teacher, in the classroom I taught math, I had an idea of what I wanted for my students, and I believe you do too. You're in the center of this. The director of Trillium, the director of any school, the superintendent has lots of information coming at them, has an idea. But if I were just to drop that onto my students and say, get this, I would miss an opportunity to bring them along and get them to be excited about this. We all need to be excited about our neighborhood schools. It's critical. It's where generations of people come through and stay with something for the long haul. And that's what the district needs. That's what we need for our neighborhoods. So I encourage you to really ask us, the public, and take our feedback on how we feel about the process. Because I don't feel that question's been asked.
So Nick, how do you feel about the process?
How do you feel about the process? I don't believe we've been asked what input we can give as a public. That's the challenge of the planning team. We've been given, here is the process. Not, how can we create a process? There have been some starts in the community. I know Greg was at one of the meetings where we really grappled with process, a different way to engage the public. That's what's new. It's no blame. There's no blame here. It's new. It's new in this community, and it's an opportunity, in my opinion.
So stay put for a second. Because I think the idea at the front of this was to have a group who helped design the process, right? I mean, was that the beginning of that conversation with the group you were on? And we may not have hit it yet. I don't think we have hit it yet. Clearly, we would be feeling better about the process if we felt good about the process. But so what suggestions do you make about the process?
Engagement to me means there are ideas coming from the community, and not when I hear you say, I can't take all of these pieces of input and assimilate them together and come up with something you all like. But in each circle amongst these people, there are like 2 or 3 people who really they have that strength, they have that skill to look at things in a certain way. I talked to Sarah Smith from Sackett, and we brainstormed an idea where all those people and all those groups get together. Because they're the ones that if the process doesn't work well, we go back to our schools and we ask that person. I asked Trace, I don't get this. Trace, are you here somewhere? We all can't be there. So those are the voices that go, how should we feel about this? And we go, I don't get it. And they say, and we say, I trust you because you've been deep into this. And I've been that person. Trace at King has been that person. Many of us have been that. So it's not a matter of, you got to get everybody in a room. It's a matter of who are these leaders in the community, in every part of this community, not just those of us on Facebook, not just those of us who are in certain groups, but all those groups. And I've heard you say that. But I haven't seen that level that's collaborative and engaging. And you just can't do that in a big room. You just can't. So I bet you there are people out here who know more than me about how this process could look. And that's where I think, if we had a bit more time, and now I'm not saying that your idea for what this should look like is not the right idea. My question is, if we create that, we'll bring a lot of people to these schools. We'll change this energy dramatically.
Okay, so I think some of, I think that can be an idea that's emerging from this, that's part of what, I think what I'm looking for here is proactive solutions. So it may be that we both are looking for what's a bigger process that we're engaging in, but also what are we doing that serves our kids in the immediate. There may be some, what are the things that have to happen in the immediate for kids next year. So there could be some combination. And part of what you're saying is we still need more process, and the process needs to look different than what it looks like so far. Is that part of my takeaway from you? But you're saying there's an opportunity to be had that we've not yet realized in the Jefferson enrollment balancing process, that could we find what that opportunity is that right? Okay. Over here.
You asked for a strong, proactive, you asked for a strong, proactive solution. Well, I have one for you. My name is Leanne. I'm a parent. I'm a parent of a student at Vernon, and I'm a parent of a student at Jefferson. I don't want to see Vernon school closed. I don't want to see Woodlawn school closed. I don't want to see Oxley Green reconfigured yet another time. Okay? The strong, proactive solution that I have, and I don't want to see not see my son's school closed, but I also don't want to see other children in my neighborhood schools closed either, because we're one community here in the Jefferson cluster. We speak with one voice. Okay? The strong, proactive solution that I have for you all is the same solution that the community has been wanting for the last 35 years. Yeah. People in 1980, I don't know how many people are familiar with this history, but people in 1980 had their kids boycott schools. They walked out of schools. Parents kept their kids home from school to demand strong neighborhood schools here in our community. It's been the same thing that we've been speaking about every single meeting in the past 10 years since my kids have been in PPS. I've seen their neighborhood school closed. I've seen the schools being reconfigured I've seen both our middle schools closed, then suddenly their school became a K-6, then a K-7, then a K-8. But we've been calling for the same thing. At all those meetings that I've been to in that time, we've been calling for the same thing, that's strong neighborhood schools here in our community. What we want from you is not enrollment balancing, which is just another fancy word for closing more schools in the Jefferson community. What we want from you is strong neighborhood schools. We want a commitment, we want resources, we want time, we want to feel like we're treated like every single other cluster in this district, not like some unwanted stepchild.
Hi, I'm a teacher at Vernon, and I've been teaching in Northeast Portland. I've been teaching in Northeast Portland for, I believe, 10 years now. And through this enrollment balancing process, we've been talking about the problems with our mid-level education, and it's been called a problem of enrollment, it's been called a problem of capture rate, and it's been called, well, indirectly a problem of test scores. But it's really a problem of segregation. That's right. None of the plans that have been proposed do anything to address the problem of segregation in our schools. All they do is take the populations that are already depleted through the transfer system and concentrate them in fewer and fewer buildings. The suggestion would be create transfer policies that we have diverse neighborhoods. We are not living in segregated neighborhoods. We're going to segregated schools because of the transfer system, which has created a status quo of white families transferring out of our cluster. It's the transfer system.
We have one over here.
Hi, my name is Janet Strong. I don't actually have a student in this cluster yet. My daughter is supposed to be attending kindergarten at Vernon next year, and I hope with all my heart that Vernon is still there for her to go to. Yes. I have two things. What's your name, the first person who spoke? Dee Simmons asked what community input you're using and how do we know what community input you're using. I wanted to know is if you guys are obviously collecting and putting all this data together, can you please publish that in a public place so that we can see what data you've collected from us and what you're using, like on the PPS website? That's my first request.
It's a great question. I'm Erin Barnett. I'm in the communications office, and we both have, if you go to pps.net, and you'll see a big display in the banner right now that'll get you to the enrollment balancing page, or there's also a little slideshow you can click on, and you'll see Jefferson Cluster, and then it has all the meeting notes all the way back to the beginning of this process. What Erin's doing now will be there. And then the feedback forms, we've created huge notebooks of feedback forms that our Enrollment and Transfer Center is keeping and will soon then give over to the board. So absolutely, we are taking it all in.
Okay, but are you guys condensing this data in a way that's meaningful? And can we have the condensed version as well? I don't want to read through pages and pages and pages of meeting notes. I want to see what is the condensed data that you're looking at.
Okay, good. That's a good suggestion to try to condense it in a way that some kind of an executive summary is what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then my second thing that I wanted to say is I hear a lot about rigorous programs for middle school students, which I absolutely believe that we need. I want quality education for middle school students, and I want it as soon as we can get it, but I don't want you guys to cut our legs out from underneath us. I feel like the elementary school students are in jeopardy here. The elementary school in kindergarten is where the community building really begins. All the parents come with their cute little kindergartners. They meet the other parents with their cute little kindergartners. Friendships are formed. Bonds are made. I think that the elementary school, neighborhood schools, are critical for our community. And I don't want to see that go away to benefit the middle school students. I want the middle school students to have what they need to be ready for high school and jobs and to be productive, responsible members of their society. But I need for that bond and that community heart to still be in every neighborhood.
So where does that take you in terms of a specific suggestion about how we get that at the middle grades?
I don't have enough information to really give you a specific suggestion. I mean, probably a middle school, but without closing any of the neighborhood schools.
So keeping neighborhood elementary schools, but doing a middle school for the middle grades.
Yeah,
that gets us
and maybe.
So do me some signal if that resonates for you. Just if the middle school is the way we get the numbers at the middle grades. Will you make noise if you're? Yeah, we'll do this thing. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
How about, wait, I'm going to just say, and if you're not interested in a middle school is the way we do that, will you make noise? Yeah! Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Smith. I've lived in the Jefferson cluster for 30 years, gone through horrendous reconfigurations and all the changes with every one of my children. It's gone on for so long. And now my grandchildren, same thing. And I would like to make two comments, actually. Constantly changing or renaming the chairs on the deck of the Jefferson is not going to take care of the problem. It's not going to stop us from taking on more water. It's not going to stop us from sinking further. The real problem is the transfer policy. It's racist, it's classist, and it is wrong. When a district allows 50% of the people in a neighborhood to transfer out, that is a district problem. So as far as solutions, any of these individual conversations about K-8 or middle school or this or that or the other, to me, have to take place under the umbrella of the elimination of the transfer policy. I'm a 36-year educator, I'm a teacher. I care about all the kids, not just kids in our cluster. I think in this school district, all children in all neighborhoods should have equitable access. I think what should happen, we need to look at, which I know the district has this information, we need to look at where the children are, in what grades, definitely do boundary balancing, so that each of the schools have, like you say, sort of equitable or close population, so we can offer the same throughout. If a school ever did have to be closed, which I never want to see happen, that should happen in the areas where maybe the children aren't, where we just don't have a lot of kids. But the way that this is being done is just awful. I happen to work for Beaverton School District. I have worked for them for 36 years. We had a horrendous budget shortfall that we dealt with this year, 40-some million. The difference in the way that that system operates and PPS operates is Beaverton doesn't have a transfer policy like Portland. The cuts that were made across the board. Yes, they were painful cuts. We had to get rid of some things. Class sizes went up, but no neighborhood school was targeted. We didn't have anything implemented that hurt one community more than another. It was equal, totally equal across the board. And we just must get rid of this transfer policy, or everything we're talking, believe me, it comes back every 2 years. I've sat here time after time after time after time. Let's get rid of the transfer policy. Let's talk about it now. Let's make sure we have equitable neighborhood schools throughout. Thank you.
We have a number of people who want to speak, so just please share the time. Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Angel Rodriguez. Thank you, Jen. I have a child with special needs that goes to Woodlawn. Just real quickly before I say something, whatever, every time I look at all your guys' data sheets, I keep on noticing that there's nothing mentioned for special education. And we need to change that, please. I just really wanted to say that while you guys are going through this process, is maybe take off this district hat and your work hat, and maybe open your hearts a little bit and try to look through the eyes of all of our community members here, and families and students. When I look at all the data that you guys have collected and looking at the majority, please focus on the minority as well. I want you to look at the effects this has on our students, our ELL students, on our students of color, and especially our students in special education. But besides that, look at what this is going to do to the families as well. Everybody you're going to hear, and I think that hopefully everybody, each time they get up, just make a little mention about amending the transfer policy. I think that really should be the beginning point of this plan. It should have happened way before. I know that team has been working 3 years. They need to keep working before we make some decisions. And I think if we get to that point and we make some amendments or whatever, there's 2 words that are right back there on that sign: equity and stability. Those are attainable. And I think if you guys take heart to all this stuff and take in all these comments, we can reach those 2 things.
So my name's Kim Wilson. I'm a parent at Vernon, proud parent at Vernon. I'm a teacher in Portland Public Schools, and thanks to this process, I now call myself an activist. So, here are my thoughts. You want specifics. I think that first thing you need to do is stop and figure out what is your long-term plan district-wide. The next thing you need to figured out what your plan is, you need to figure out what things are already in place, what policies, like the transfer policy, are getting in the way of that long-term plan. You know, I'm on the Facebook page, and it's amazing the documents that people are uncovering about the process and about procedures and protocols, and none of those things have been used. You're not following your own protocols and your own procedures.
Wow.
So if you have it in writing, use it. The other thing that I would say is and there was a document pointed out today that was all about stakeholders. You have not brought the stakeholders to the table. You haven't asked parents for enough feedback. You have, but not the right way. You also haven't asked students. You haven't asked your own experts, the teachers in this district. We are a wealth of knowledge. And I'm not just talking about Jefferson cluster. You have middle school teachers, and I'm on the fence. Do you go middle school? Do you go K-8? Because there are benefits to both. But until we all sit down and really talk about it, and we know what your long-term plan is, we can't help you. So ask us. The other thing is PAT, there's your whole wealth of teachers. They came up with some excellent questions that teachers and parents should be asking, but I think the district should be asking. And to be honest with you, I'm really, really, really frustrated that it's taking this long to get to this conversation.
My name is Uriah. I'm a student at Jefferson, and I want to know why Jefferson's being attacked and why we're acting like it's about anything less than Jefferson. I mean, it's been the same battle for 30-something years, and now it's just taking on a different form by attacking the schools that feed into our school. I feel like Jefferson brings a lot to the city and to the country. Like, we're a great place, and I don't think we're being supported like we should at all. I think the transfer policy is really important because there are, as someone brought out earlier, there are more than enough kids to be feeding into this school for it to be thriving like it should, like it used to be. I don't know what changed since then, but I think we need to get it back there. And it shouldn't be that hard because it's really simple.
Hi, my name is Egeria Walker. I'm a parent in the cluster. My son goes to Vernon. And I went to Vernon, family members went to Vernon. And I have a few things to say. I'm a parent, I'm a mother, I'm a social justice activist. I'm involved in a variety of things in the community, and this is what I have noticed. One, everyone keeps saying you need to end the transfer policy. A lot of people, at one meeting I was at Vernon, someone, I can't remember their name, stood up and said, oh, we can't make someone stay in their community. We can't make them go to their neighborhood community. Yeah, you can. Because when I was a little girl, you had to go to your neighborhood school. You could not transfer out. So, and just as easy as you implemented that policy can be taken away if you truly care about the community and our community. Not about the community, but our community and the people in our community. I know the history of Portland. I know the history of racism and classism that has taken place in this city. I've done a lot of research. I've talked to Portland Black Panther members. I've talked to Portland community members. I've done my research. And I know that back in the day, blacks, people of color, were forced into northeast area. And out of necessity, we created a community. And now, through institutionalized classism and racism, it is being broken down yet again, and we are being pushed to the outer edges of the city. It's something that continues to go on, and it's something that is going on right now within PPS. Okay, that's next thing. I just want to mention last year Humboldt was closed. And that was closed due to budget cuts, no money. The kids weren't going to the schools, so on and so forth. And I remember that everyone was pushing Humboldt to Boise Elliott. Go to Boise Elliott, it's right there down the road, and you'll love it, and everyone's there. Now you've got more kids there. Kids aren't getting the individualized attention that they used to get at Humboldt. And King School is right down the road. Why didn't you guys try and balance it out and say, okay, look, for whatever, I'm getting a little heated, for whatever lame reason you guys came up with to have to close Humboldt School, you could have taken, okay, look, let's do the boundaries. Part of y'all go to King, part of y'all go to Boise Elliott, and let's keep it even. Now we are, right now, King is facing the same possible thing due to low attendance. We might have to close King. Why wasn't it balanced out last year when you guys closed Humboldt? And this is just a message to the parents and the teachers. I don't have any solutions. I'm just here to call folks out. I don't know what can fix stuff. I just think that it just needs to change. To the parents and community members, get out. Let people know that you are outraged, you are upset, and you are pissed off. You are not going to tolerate this anymore. I was born and raised in Northeast Portland, and I have seen my community change in so many dramatic ways, and some for the good, some for the negative. But when it comes to the communities of color, the marginalized communities, it is for the bad, because we don't have a community. People move in our area because, oh, it's an artsy district, but nobody cares about the community like we used to. There's no community foundation. And so parents and community people need to get out there. Wear these stickers, wear your t-shirts, go door to door and knock and say, do you know what they're trying to do? You have a 10-month-old child, and you might not be able to have a neighborhood school around. You're gonna have to ship them onto the west side, because that's where the good schools are. And you won't have anything to left behind. And this is your job as the board members to look at us, look at me, look at them. Know that our children matter. Know that it's not about budget, it's not about numbers. Cancel the transfer policy, show that you care about us and our kids and what we need, and stop trying to hide behind these policies and legislatures and Rule 2.1 and all these other things. Just get it done. Just get it done and show that you actually care and stop all the nonsense.
Okay, my name is Mauricio Somilleda, and I'm a parent at Beach Elementary. I got two kids, one in the 6th grade and one in the 4th grade. I've been in numerous meetings, including on community-organized Latino meetings. Not meetings that were organized by the district, but we had to form our own meetings because the information that was being transferred from the district was not complete. And so I want to say, as a community, you got a big tool. That if you inform us, that if you let us be participant with accurate data, we can be a tool that can help instead of being a community that be against you. Proof of that is that the Latino community, that the meetings that we had, we came up with a set of questions that we sent directly to Judy in Antonio, and that was back in mid-December. Up to right now, we have not received a single answer from that letter. That would answer some of the very specific questions, very simple questions. If the changes happen, what's going to happen with transportation? What's going to happen with the special ed? You know, things of that matter. And I just don't understand why you guys haven't taken the time to educate. All those meetings that we put out by the district for the Latino community, they've just been information very superficial. You're not giving us background. You're not giving us the reason why. You're not giving us numbers. You're not telling us how the changes are going to affect our community. And so the request I have for you right now is please make us be part of it. Inform us. Let us help you make these changes.
For those of you who haven't seen me by now, my name's Andy Rowe. I'm a parent of Ockley Green. And I'll try to be brief, but I'm kind of go from a story to a conversation about the process. I feel a little bit like an outlier because I have two kids that are both transfer kids because we're at an option school. But I think we need to keep the eye on the ball on why people are transferring out. We opted out of our school because wheels were started in motion because my neighborhood school was actually closed when my kids were, I believe, 2 or 3. We tried to give our new neighborhood school a shot, and for whatever reason it didn't work out there, so we started fielding our options, what works for my kid. And the transfer policy, it is part of the problem, but it's not all of it. We tried and tried over the span of years to try to get into at least 6 different schools. We didn't get into any of them. So people aren't necessarily transferring out, even if they want to. Some do, but a lot don't. But to go back into the conversation about this, we want to know what's in it for our kids. That's the reason why we opted to go to Ockley Green, and that's the reason why now I believe in this process we have a difficult time providing meaningful and contributable feedback to you because we don't understand what's in it for our kids with these scenarios. We don't know what the potential quality of programming is from one scenario to the next. So the only thing I have to gauge the scenarios on is that in one scenario, my kids are going to become refugees and move around the district. And that's without understanding how these schools are going to look to benefit our kids, not only my own, but my neighbors and my community members. We can't give the feedback that you need. And I think that's a key part of the process that's missing, is we don't understand, or we're not being told the implications of choosing one scenario over the other. If we have an 1,100 student K-8 versus a middle school, we have no basis of comparison to be able to tell you, we like this better, we like that better, other than, oh my God, I have 1,100 kids here, or oh my God, my kids are going to get shuffled off to another school, and I don't even know if our sped kids will fit in there with us. So we need more information. It's not that we want to stop the process, it's not that we want to, stop everything. We just don't feel like we have enough information to help you move forward.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Rafaela y pertenezco aquí. Todos hemos...
Good afternoon, my name is Rafaela and my kids was King.
Siempre se está hablando mucho de la transferencia, de que se van a cerrar escuelas.
They're always talking about the transfer and they're going to close schools.
Y sé que han estado trabajando mucho.
And I know they've been working really hard.
Pero también no nos hemos preocupado, y ustedes se han preocupado, en saber qué es lo que está pasando con los niños.
Nobody has taken the time to worry to see what's happening with the children.
Muchos de los niños ya me he estado dando cuenta.
A lot of the children I have noticed
que ya están formando un fantasma dentro de su conocimiento.
They creating a ghost in the knowledge.
Porque están empezando a tratar de divorciar a sus segundos padres,
because they've been trying to divorce their second parents,
que son sus maestros y su escuela.
They are the teachers and the schools.
Al cerrar más escuelas,
closing more schools,
esto no nos va a llevar a nada a mejorar.
It's not going to be any better for us.
Porque esto ya está llevándose desde hace más de 3 años.
Because this has been going on for the last 3 years.
Y el dinero siempre va a escasearse.
And the money is always going to be short.
Lo que se debe de planear es cómo tratar de equilibrar todo esto.
What it has to be done is to have to balance the budget.
Porque los recortes siempre van a haber y la crisis va a continuar y no con cerrar las escuelas.
Because the crisis is going to continue and they're not going to be solved by closing schools.
En nuestra área, que es la área que siempre está llevando año tras año cierres de escuelas.
Because our area is the area that every year is they're closing more schools.
El año pasado se cerraron
parece ser 2 escuelas, Tauman y Humboldt.
Last year they closed Humboldt and Tolman.
Yo sé que Tauman estuvo recaudando fondos para que continuara abierta la escuela y no se contempló ni se respetó la opinión de todas estas personas.
She knows that Humboldt was collecting money so they didn't close the school. However, nobody respected the fact that they were getting funds to keep the school open. They oversaw that.
Ahora este año quieren cerrar 4 escuelas y una que está en fantasma, que ustedes saben que a futuro se va a cerrar, que es esta quinta, por el supuesto que la van a remodelar cuando hay instituciones o escuelas ya cerradas y se puede ubicar.
She said there's 3 schools that are going to close, and there's a ghost school that they say they're going to remodel. And you guys are aware of that, eventually that will close too.
Y con este supuesto balanceo y reubicación que quieren hacer, no se va a ver la igualdad entre blancos, morenos e hispanos, porque ya en reuniones atrás,
with all these transfers and budgets, they're not looking at the minorities like blacks, Hispanics, and people with disabilities.
Se ha comentado entre nosotros mismos que quieren la separación y no es justo, porque todos valemos lo mismo y necesitamos que nos respeten ya.
She said that they're not seeing the equality because we all, have respect for each other. It doesn't matter racism, color, or anything.
El cierre también deberían de llevarlo a cabo en otras zonas, no nada más Jefferson. Jefferson lleva cada año puros cierres y no vemos nada claro que se mejore la educación. Y es la educación la que tienen que buscar cómo mejorar. Gracias.
She said it's not just Jefferson that should be closed. They should look at all the schools that should be closed instead of just Jefferson.
Okay, my name is Rayshawn Brown. I'm a parent and a teacher. And just for a practical, specific thing you can do, the young lady with the Vernon shirt, your student might go there, your kid might go there, or kindergarten. She said, how do you condense that? And Dee talked about how to make sure we're being taken into consideration. I think one thing you might do is after you make your decision, if you could say where it came from in the notes and post. We looked at the parent from Vernon suggestion about blah, 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 and this parent and this committee and this person. This is how I came to my decision. So you can pull out the actual verbiage of who it came from, and then that can show maybe how you came to your decision on what the board votes on. That's one example. And then we also I keep hearing shut the transfer policy down. And I'm not saying to do that or not, but I want to ask, like he said, why are people even transferring? The first thing was the gentrification that's happened in this community, which is not anybody's fault in here per se, but why do they want to go to the Beaverton schools? What is drawing them there? We want schools like that here. That cannot happen if our district continues to have poor leadership. The administration matters. And sometimes you recycle them from one school to another without letting them go. That's the problem. And same for teachers. I know I'm a teacher in the district. Our union has its good and bad points, but there are also poor teachers that affect our children directly in this building. And to have them still teaching here, I might have friends and family with horrible stories. That cannot happen, which is why people don't want to send their kids here. So yes, the transfer policy lets people go anywhere, but why are people transferring? You know, if you have a poor school, nobody is going to want to send their kids there if things aren't happening or they feel their kid's not going to be educated strongly. So make sure you get strong leaders in there, programs that are sustainable, and really take into consideration who is teaching the children in our schools. Because as you know, with our equity policy, there is a way to educate children of color that some white teachers are not accustomed to or need to be educated on and have that unconscious racial bias as well. So that will help as well. And then, nothing. And things like, okay, so I think Oakley Green was this magnet school for arts, but there was no art teacher. Things like that can't happen. Like, that's just, I've never heard of such a thing. And I still don't understand what happened. You can't bill a school as this great school, and their kids get there, and it's like, where's the art teacher? This is the arts magnet school. That can't happen. That's another reason why, oh, this is a mess, I'm leaving. So making sure what we bill a school as is what is offered there, strong. And that is all.
Okay, thank you. Please go over here. Yes, I'm well aware it's 2, so we have 40 more minutes, so we have a lot more people, so ask people to please.
Hold on, I have the mic over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it my turn?
Sorry there.
I can't see who's talking.
Okay.
My name is Jamie Danielle, and I'm a parent of a child at Vernon, and I live in Northeast Portland. Obviously, I'm not a transfer family. I have comments and some ideas to suggest for the process, and a lot of it is we'll repeat the things that we've heard in the room. So I don't intend to be redundant, and at the same time, I think that some things need to be repeated. So what I've observed during my time here in Northeast Portland is that the Jefferson cluster communities have a long history of disinvestment from the school district. And this has created, it's unfortunate, and it's created incredible lack of trust. You're seeing it and feeling it here. There's a lot of emotions. I'm pretty angry and frustrated. But I'm keeping those things in check because I want to be rational and I want to be helpful to the process. And I hope that we can get there somewhere from this. So one of my critiques of the system is that it is very top-down. And it doesn't need to be, because you see you have community members here that are ready to work together. We just need a better process. And so my suggestion is to make the process, to stop. And I will respect you for stopping and trying something different, because this, I think you've heard from a lot of people that this isn't working for us. And it's probably not working for you. So when you do stop, think about how do we make this a ground level process? How do we include community leaders around each of these schools that are low income, have a rich diversity, and not a lot of resources in them? How can you engage community leaders in this process? And I mean people that represent the diversity in our communities, people that represent children in special education, business leaders, church leaders, other community leaders who are deeply invested in our communities. We know we can come up with solutions to help around our schools. Please ask us, please engage us. And I also know that it's not one solution. So the 2 options that are on the table right now are incredibly distracting. I don't think they're solutions. They're not. The discussion about enrollment balancing, it's a distraction. I want to hear a discussion about how we can have equity in our schools for all students, how we can raise, I'm losing my words, how we can close the achievement gaps between our underperformers and our high performers. I don't hear discussion about that in the solutions. I hear a teeter-totter process about moving kids from one school to the next and the next, even though we know our lower grades are growing, and we need time to figure out how do we create schools around these kids that are coming to our schools without closing them. We can't close the achievement gap when we're closing our schools and disinvesting in these communities. So a couple other suggestions, and I'll stop. Please address the problem of segregation in our schools. Please have solution-focused discussions with the communities around the schools, not top-down, ground level, please. Take a look at how money is allocated. Reorganize that money. We're never going to have enough money, okay? But just look at how you're spending it, and let's create equity in that process. Allow communities to articulate the values and the vision that guide the process. When you engage communities,
we've got good ideas, we know what really matters to us, and if you align what you're doing and how you're spending money according to the values and the vision in our communities, I think we'll be a lot better off in the long term. And this process, another comment, pits us against you. And I know that you're just people, and when things are bad, sometimes it's really easy for us to blame, and it doesn't help the process. It just creates a lot of anger. So please think about the process and try something different. Thank you.
And we're over here.
My name is Lauren Antonisi, and I have 2 daughters in kindergarten at Vernon. I've been going to these meetings for 5 months, which is as long as I've been in the public school system here in Portland, and it's exasperating. I don't have anything nice to say about this entire process as it relates to the balancing enrollment. I have no recommendations for you related to that. I'm not sure you've heard us. My recommendation, and unlike Jamie, I'm not really able to keep my anger in check. My recommendation to you would be to work with us. You're talking about how across the entire city there's more enrollment in the younger grades. I want you to consider working with us and building these schools which will bring the enrollment up and create the programs that you're talking about. Every one of those proposals that I've seen, all, 8 or 9 of them, are short-sighted. They're Band-Aids. I have no idea what your vision is as a school board or as a superintendent. I don't understand what you're trying to do. I understand the money issue. I want to see this. I've looked at 1,000 slides. I want to see the slide about how this process is affecting the capture rate in my neighborhood. So we were 50% 5 months ago. I bet you we're at 30% now thanks to this, and we haven't gotten anywhere. I want you to slow down, stop the process, and I want someone on the school board or the superintendent, I want you to have some vision. I want you to be ready to step out of the box and make a change that is not going to go over well with everyone in the entire Portland public school system. I want you to invest in us, and we will invest in you. We will build our schools. We will make better programs because our enrollment will be up, and we all know that the money follows the students. And 10 years from now, maybe we can look back and say, wow, that was a real turning point when the people from North and Northeast Portland said we're sick of being screwed with. As far as the upper grades, who I think have been most affected by the inequities, by the lack of programs, the lack of money, they need and deserve good programs. They need and deserve to be educated at a level that is very comparable and equal to everyone else in the city. You guys need to think out of the box. What can help our upper grades without destabilizing our younger grades? You have to work with us. Moving us around, shuffling us around, closing schools, you're shooting us in the chest and yourself in the foot.
Hi, my name is Brenda Mahaney. I teach at Beach, and I have some solutions for you. Some of these things we have not heard yet today. Please, let our schools be. Let us work together. Stop making us teachers go to monthly job alikes that do not support our schools, that are not quality PD. Let us work with one another. Give us time that is not structured with strict guidelines where someone is sitting in front of us following a protocol that we have to follow that doesn't help our instruction. It doesn't help close the gap. guys are going to make an activist out of me. Instead, let Beach and King work together. Let white middle-class teachers, there are a lot of me teaching in the United States that did not grow up with the same background as my students. I try so hard to reach the good 50% of my students that don't have my background, but I don't know firsthand what that's like to grow up with a background that's different than me. Let me work with those King teachers or with my coworkers who do have that experience. Give us that time on our own to not have those strict guidelines. That will close the gap. That will create stronger schools. Regarding the whole middle school thing, I'm on the fence as well because I do not have a lot of trust in whether we would have a strong middle school and maintain a strong pre-K through 5 program. When I went to middle school, I ran sports year-round. We had clubs like crazy. I could do band or choir, and we had art and music and PE and library and technology. Those programs should be in all of our schools, pre-K through 8. I think the way to help make that happen is to stop wasting our time with balance and enrollment and use district time and money to create state funding, to be able to work more at the state level, to get that funding for our schools, and use the time and energy that I'm sure many people in the district do not want to work on more balance and enrollment stuff. But let us use that time and energy to figure out how to increase funding to have these quality programs for all students.
I live in a neighborhood. My name is Spencer Burns. And Carol, I would recommend that you end the transfer policy. I believe all our schools are stronger when we all go to school together. Black and white, rich and poor, struggling and brilliant. When we all go together, we're much stronger. It's about the connections you make. It's about going to school with the students and children that you grew up with next door. It's about those connections. It's about us. It's about investing in our community. It's about investing in our neighborhood. It's about all of us together. Let's all go to school together, wherever we live. Yeah. It's that simple.
My name is Russ Peterson. I'm a Portal Public School teacher and I live in the Jefferson neighborhood. I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments that I've heard. Our schools in Northeast Portland and the Jefferson cluster specifically, we need stability. Our schools for so long have been remodeled, reconfigured, reinvented. That's got to stop. I don't blame parents for transferring from their neighborhood school to another school if they don't know what their school is going to be like from one year to the next. Whether we do a middle school or a K-8, all I would ask is that we be thinking long-term and think of what the stability will look like for our first graders. Will they be going to the same school when they're fifth graders? Will the school that they will have for eighth grade be there and in this structure? This is what the long-term vision that I would ask of you and I would ask of our school board to be considering when they make these decisions. This is what our kids need. And the last thing I think that would go towards this, and it's been said many times before, this transfer policy is part of the problem. I think and I look at who is being served by the transfer policy and who's being hurt. And it seems to me it's people who look like me, white, middle-class people who are moving into this neighborhood. We're the ones that are transferring out of our neighborhood schools because it serves our needs and our interests, and that's not okay. Okay? The people here, y'all are my neighbors. This is my neighborhood. I want my child to go to school with your children. Right? I think it makes us stronger. So, thank you.
High School. This is my neighborhood school. I went to Chief Joseph. I went to Upton
when I was in 6th grade, the gate was closed down, and all the kids had to come to Chief Joseph. So this has been happening for too long, and it's shameful to see. I just want to know why the Jefferson neighborhood is systematically. Why are we being experimented on constantly? Everything is always changing. We're in middle college now. We've been in middle college since my freshman year. I've been taking college classes since I was a sophomore in high school. So I just want you guys to take credit for something that's already going on, and I want you guys to see the wonderful things that are happening here. And I want you to make it better, and I want things to be equal and fair, and I want you to stop being changed constantly. I want something consistent. I want our neighborhood to thrive. I want the school to grow. And I want to be successful. So please make that happen. I want a real answer to what you guys are going to do to prove that, and without closing schools.
This is a comment just to the whole community here. I'm born and raised here in this community. I've just seen the Jefferson cluster dismantled forever, okay? I'm so happy to see you all here, but the fight has been, we needed you 20 years ago to stand with us, like you asking Portland Public Schools to not close down these elementary schools. We needed your support. The thing that happened to us is happening to you now because you didn't stand with us and our children. We're not only angry, but it's been disgusting to see this happening. We're in the 21st century, but yet racism. There's no inclusivity here in this community because you stand with yourself. You've never stood with us. When I look around this room, there's very few people of color in here. What's our problem? We are our own problem. So, to Portland Public Schools, it's about equity. It's about sustainability of communities. We've been fighting the good fight for a very long time. Okay?
Hello. My name is Jeff here. I'm the speech language pathologist at Woodlawn School. Woodlawn is a place with 20% of our students receiving special education services. That number is high in part because we have the great honor of having a program, a continuum of service for students who have social communication needs similar to those on the autism spectrum. We have programs from kindergarten all the way up to middle school. We're the only school in the district that has programs like ours. It's wonderful to be a part of them, and has been for the past 3 years. The district said, you know, we're moving these students around a lot. Let's use a home base where they don't have to shift, where they can just stay where they are. And what a treat it's been to be a part of that for the past 3 years. If you live with, or work with, or know people with autism, you know that even just the smallest change in the daily schedule can be a huge disruption. So I hope you can imagine the kind of grief that our students have been experiencing over the past 2 weeks. I say 2 weeks because it really has just been 2 weeks that we've known about this in our school community. We were told by a representative from the Enrollment Balancing Committee in November that Woodlawn was above, it wasn't going to be touched. It wasn't something they would consider. And had we known that, we would have started preparing our families and our students then, because they need that much time at least. Our students are experiencing a severe amount of grief. We're seeing it every day. I have students who are crying a Friday afternoon because they don't understand that Woodlawn's not closing over the weekend. We need so much time to prepare them for a big shift like this. And so my hope for you, Ms. Smith, is that you'll be sure and consider our most vulnerable students when you make your recommendation to the board.
Hello. My name is Shonda Dexter, and I am a parent at Oakley Green. And I have a first grader and a seventh grader. And we were a part of the first transfer, and it was dramatic. And once the change was implemented, it took a while for everybody to get structured again, and things were going good. And then there was another shift. And the shift I keep hearing people say is structure
and leadership, and that's what I'm piggybacking off right now. If we're going to make a change across the board, we need someone to represent our teachers and our students and as parents. We need a leader who's going to listen to us, to the questions and needs of the parents, students, and the staff, and communicate thoroughly. A key factor is that is a key factor of running a successful school. Engage the parents so that they feel welcome, wanted, and important. Right now, I can probably say there's probably 5 Off the Green parents here, if that. Accountability, when something is not working right. It's okay to step back and say we need to make some changes. Dare to make a difference. Step outside of your box. Come into our school and really sit down and watch your staff work and see how they're communicating with us parents. Watch your staff blow us off or not have us represented correctly. To me, there has not been enough representative from Ockley Green, and that's not fair for the parents who can't make it, or fair for the kids whose parents don't know or are not educated enough to understand that they need to be here to get their voices heard. We need someone to encourage our parents to get involved with the school, to volunteer at the school, so parents want to keep their kids at their neighborhood schools. We need a radical leader, and it's not happening.
So, my name is Lisa Hatton, and I'm a parent at Vernon. There's a few things that I've noticed. I've been involved in this process for a long time, and one of them is there's been some bad things about the process, but one of the good things is it's really brought a lot of communication, and I think people have become more united as a cluster, which I think is kind of just happened. It's kind of organically happened a lot on Facebook, but also just meeting. Our PTA presidents have been meeting, and I think I haven't heard as much of this school pitted against that school because of that. So I think that's been really good. I see this as a really good beginning, and I think that Carol and others are hearing our voices. I was so glad to hear what you just said, because I've been wondering for a long time. At Vernon, we have 70% or more of people of color, but at our PTA, it's almost all white parents there. And it's changing, it's getting better, but I don't know how to reach, as a white middle-class woman, I don't know how to reach somebody who is black and poor and works 3 jobs. I don't mean to sound, I feel like it's the elephant in the room, so I know that's not a politically correct way of saying that, but I don't know how to do that. But one thing I do know is that it has to be person to person, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of manpower. So that's that. As far as the specific suggestion, I don't feel like we're going to get out of this without some change. And I think that because of the budgets and whatnot, they're going to make some changes. So I'm going to accept that fact, and I'm going to say my suggestion is that we put a middle school into the Jefferson cluster that starts out strong. I'm one of the people who said I don't want to see a year of closure, because then you have people who are going to leave. So if you can put a good school, and so here's how I think that needs to happen. I think all of the neighborhood schools need to stay open, and those that are, I think that they all need to become K-5, and I think that the new middle school, they should all feed that new middle school, so that you have numbers that are high enough so that we can get the kind of robust programming. I hear that word again, I'm going to scream, but it's like, I feel like we need 700 students there, not 522. We want to be West Sylvan, for God's sake. We want to have basket weaving, we want to have, and then I also really, really believe that, and that there is an upswing, okay? So if you don't close our schools now, and we have this kind of groundswell of parent activity, and we can show you some ways to bring the capture rate up, and you have ways, and you have resources to do that, we can work together. So for instance, at Vernon, my daughter was born 7 years ago. When she was about 6 months old, I started looking at Vernon. And by the time she was 3, I was going to PTA meetings, and I went to a couple of the events, and I was like, well, what about this? Well, so I said, I'll give it a try for pre-K. And all of a sudden, I got involved in the school, and I realized how great it was, and how many friends I made, and how awesome it was that my daughter has friends right around us. and we can walk to school, we can walk to her friends. And then at the same time, I've had friends in that same neighborhood for 5 years who have either moved or taken advantage of the transfer policy, or they're so attracted to this school that offers art and music, or the environmental school, or the this, that, and the other school. I think all Portland public schools need to teach to both sides of the brain. We all need to have music. We all need to have art. We all need gardens. We all need to recycle. I really believe that the school board members and that the administration, that they are thinking of the kids. I also know that there are budget constraints, and what's coming down the pipe from the state sucks. You know, we have a $17 million shortfall again. You guys want to be active? You need to look at the big picture. And we need to stop increasing the options for people to want to transfer to. So don't let these freaking charter schools open. That is going to kill us. So let the neighborhood schools stay open. Let us be small for a couple of years, and we'll commit to you that we will bring our neighbors into our schools. But to do that, we need to know that we're going to have the programming. And we need to know that there's a committed long term. So if schools go out and have prospective family member meetings and bring them in before they're in kindergarten. We're going to have 2 at Vernon coming up on February 15th and on February 23rd. Prior to the kindergarten roundup, we are going to have prospective family of Vernon meetings where people can come together and ask questions that maybe aren't politically correct. And we can just give them our feedback in a casual way. So I've said enough. Thank you.
Wait. Let me ask a question before we keep going. Just because it felt like a bunch of this last speaker's words resonated for people, so I just want to get some sense of, like, some of the ideas you just expressed resonate for people in this room in terms of K-5s that are neighborhood K-5s, and if we're looking for middle grade programs that are strong, creative, strong middle school, was that a more... And wait, last part of that one that I heard was also about just invest in the build back and support the build back of how are we pulling people back into the schools.
Hola, muy buenas tardes.
And we're down to like 7 or 8 minutes left, so I just want to make sure people who haven't spoken get to speak.
Voy a tratar de hablar lo menos posible. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Elisama Reyes. Vengo de la escuela Boise Elliott.
My name is Elizabeth. Vengo de la escuela. I come from the school Boise Elliott.
En primer lugar, pues quiero felicitar a mi tutor aquí presente. Tuve la oportunidad de estar con ellos en Oak Green.
I want to congratulate you because I was in the meeting at Oakley Green with you.
Y también quiero felicitar a todos los que están participando en esta tarde y me siento muy contenta de mirar gente hispana también aquí en esta reunión.
And I want to congratulate all of you that have attended this meeting this afternoon and also to the Hispanic community that is here today.
Asimismo también quiero felicitar a la mesa directiva de las escuelas públicas de Portland.
I also want to congratulate the directive table of the Portland Public Schools
por tener esa paciencia de escuchar a cada uno de los padres de familia y ojalá que cada una de estas voces se haga realidad y tengan un mejor proceso para todas las escuelas, para nuestros hijos.
And to congratulate you for listening to every person that has spoken here today, and I hope that you can take into consideration of everybody that has expressed concerns here and really take it into the consideration.
Asimismo también para mí yo quisiera invitar a todos los padres hispanos que estamos aquí, así como cada uno de ustedes han estado alzando su voz, a mí también me gustaría oír a los hispanos que hablemos porque también somos parte de esta comunidad.
And I would also love to hear more Hispanic community. I would like for them to also raise their voice, like some of these people here have let them want you guys to hear them. We also have a voice in the community, the Spanish community.
Después de esto también, ahora ya tengo una pregunta para la mesa directiva, después de haber estado escuchando a cada uno de estos padres que se encuentran en esta tarde.
I also have a question for the school board after listening to all the parents and the comments that they made here today.
El hecho de estar aquí nosotros reunidos en esta tarde y escuchar las opiniones de cada uno de los padres, ¿eso los va a hacer cambiar a ustedes en nuevas opciones después de las dos que ya habían elegido?
She's wondering if after listening to all the concerns, you guys are going to make any changes in the two options of the people and the questions that have been directed to the board this day?
Pues muchísimas felicidades, porque eso es lo que nosotros necesitamos, que nos escuchen y que de verdad nos hagan saber que les importamos, sobre todo a nuestros hijos.
Say thank you very much, and that she appreciates that you guys are listening to them too here.
My name is Lisa Evans. I'm at Beach. I've got a couple things, suggestions. One of the things is that people are not going to their neighborhood schools, in part because the schools aren't as robust. We are transferred into an immersion program. So I guess one of my suggestions is increase immersion because that's going to help the schools be more attractive. It's also that it's not that we have a problem of there's not enough money in the state. We have a distribution problem, right? We have a distribution problem we're spending, these things are beyond you in a way, but we're spending more on prison beds than we are on education. So I think that on one level, I'd just like to give a shout out to a few books that we need to educate ourselves about. Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow, she was here. Please read that book. I also recommend A Noble Failure, seeing the play about education that's happening right now at the Third Rail. I also recommend reading the book The Future of Our Schools, that's talking about the democratization of our teachers' unions and how teachers' unions need to band together with parents, because that is how you are going to protect yourself from the privatization that is coming your way. It is coming your way. So please read those books. The last thing I wanted to say is, Google Brian Jones. He's also a teacher and educator, and he's telling us how we as teachers, or I'm not a teacher, but how us as parents and teachers can band together and work together, because the future of the unions, really, you guys need the parents, the teachers need the parents, and we need you because you're organized, and we're not. We're all dispersed out here, so we need you. Okay. I guess you are hearing a lot about process, right? A lot of what's coming out from us is because the process is flawed. That's my experience. When I went to the first meeting at Beach, I got a bunch of questions that were presented to me, and they weren't even the right questions. I didn't want to ask that question. I wasn't ready to answer any questions. I wanted to process. So I think that's what you're hearing from us in part, is that. So please work on the process. So we transferred to Beach. I'm going to say something that's difficult. We transferred to Beach immersion program. Our school is Boise Elliott, right? We heard that Boise Elliott was in trouble, right? So the problem that you've got is that you've got parents who can, right? Who've got the wherewithal, right? Everybody wants the best for their kids, but you've got parents who've got the wherewithal, they got the money, right? They got whatever they need to make that choice, and they are advocating for their kids the way everybody wants to. So you can't just stop the transfer. You have got to make the schools better. And that gets at the point of the money. So I know you're looking at us. You're looking at us going, oh, those people, they want too much. There's no money. And so we've just got to do what we got to do. They just don't understand. We understand. We're not fools, right? And we know that what we need is more money for schools. So all of us, we as parents, we've got to advocate at the state level, right? We don't need Rudy, we don't need Rudy to come and bust our schools, right? Who are those people? Who are those people who appointed them? That suggested that he come. I just want to point out 3 ironies. Number 1, those people who appointed Rudy Crew, right, who suggested him to Kulingoski, they're not going to public schools, right? Number 2, they don't want to pay taxes. Rudy Crew is, I say the name wrong?
No, it's right.
Crew? Okay, I kept on saying Coxco. Anyway, he is being appointed by people who don't want to pay taxes. The tax-free zones that Nike wants, right?
Yeah.
That's another irony. And I'm going to say a difficult thing, the irony of his race. The irony of his race, that they are appointing a black man to come in and break up our public schools, okay? So across race, people, we have got to get together, all right?
Okay, wait, I'm just going to do a quick say thank you so much for your remarks. I was just asked if we could stay another 10 minutes since it took us a little bit to get going. We have some people who still wanted to speak. Are people good hanging in for another 10 minutes? Okay, so good. I just want to make sure people who haven't had the opportunity to speak do. Go.
Thank you. My name is Aubrey Pagan-Stecker, and I teach I've taught pre-K at Woodlawn for the past 8 years. It's been my teaching home since I first began here. But I know some of the history of our district. I was a student here from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. I student taught in the Jeff area, and this is where my heart is. But I have some very specific, you asked for specifics, and so I want to try to give you some specifics that I think not only address the process, but also the issues that we're facing at large, the challenges that we're having. The first is that we ask you to listen, and not just to listen, but to put that listening into action. When I look at these scenarios, I don't see anything on here that I heard stated at any of the meetings that I attended. I didn't see this anywhere. I didn't hear this. I want you to listen, and I want you to take that into consideration. I've not heard a single family say that they want the pre-Ks pulled out of neighborhood schools and centralized. I've not heard a single teacher say that that's a good idea. And so far, no one from my district has been able to communicate to any of us that that's within the best interest of our students. It's not. I would like you to involve teachers. Teachers need to have a voice in this rather than having one staff meeting after the 6 scenarios have been presented and put your feedback on this form and send it in so it can sit in a binder in central office. We are the experts. We're on the ground. We're doing the work every day. And we have a lot of knowledge to contribute to this process. And we want to help you. We want to work together. I personally don't think that this is, it's not the movement that's going to help anything. Moving kids from one place to another, I've heard people say it all day long, it's about the investment. It's about making sure that there is equity in all of our schools. It's about making sure that every single school, not just in the Jefferson cluster, but district-wide, has an excellent, fantastic principal that their whole entire community can rally around. And until we have that, we're going to be having this conversation over and over. I would like to see my district take some accountability. When I teach my students, if they've made a mistake, I teach them how to make amends. I teach them how to look to the people that they have offended or the people that they've wronged and try to make it right, and I'm not seeing any of that happening here. I think that there needs to be more accountability taken, and it makes me feel ashamed as a district employee when district representatives come into our school and they put the blame on our parents, and they put the blame on our teachers, and they put the blame on our kids. And I think that's wrong. I'm losing my momentum here. Did I get everything? Oh, yeah, and I would like to see more attempts made to encourage collaboration. We're all in this together, but when you schedule meetings simultaneously so that our communities are segregated, I want to hear what Chief Joe has to say. I want to hear what Oxy and Vernon have to say, and I don't want to have to wait for one meeting right before you make your decision for us to be able to hear from one another. I want to be having more meetings like this, collaborating, talking with one another.
Tricia Porter, and I have been serving in Portland Public Schools for close to 2 decades. And so I'm here before you to say no more. No more being passive and idle and allowing Portland Public Schools to make the decisions for our children. So we need to be aggressive, as I was, in grabbing the mic and saying, hey, I stood here for a number of minutes waiting to speak, and for whatever reason the microphone wasn't passed to me. But instead of waiting, being assertive and aggressive and saying, I'm going to grab the mic because I have something to say. And so, Superintendent Smith, I'm here to say that I believe I do have a recommendation, or at least some suggestion. First of all, the first recommendation would be to withdraw and withhold these two options and take more time to consider the input of everyone here in the building and those meetings that have taken place across the city. Because as you find yourself asking for more input, it shows that you need more time. So hopefully you will take that in consideration and not make your decisions within the next month. But being that that may or may not happen, because as being a teacher at Humboldt School, as you know, it was closed last year, I find that oftentimes decisions are made in which I have no control over. I'm happy to say that I am currently working at Boise Elliott Humboldt, and it was surprising to find that Boise Elliott Humboldt was on the list of schools that would possibly make a move for the coming school year. I'm glad that you reconsidered that and gave that some thought, being that the Humboldt community had already gone through such tremendous impact in the closure of the school. So I do want to thank you for that. But my heart goes out as we all stand together. We love our schools, and we're here to send that message to you, that we care about kids, we love our schools. And one of the issues that really is challenging for me as I consider what you've compiled here on this pamphlet, you've even listed it as a challenge. It says more students would take buses. You know, that really just kind of doesn't sit well when I think about the safety concerns. Oftentimes, when you're putting together something of this magnitude, you know, the big picture, sometimes details go unnoticed. A detail that's very significant is the safety of our students, of our children. And so when parents put their kids on the buses, when teachers anticipate the arrival of their students in the building, when a bus is late on either side, there's some anxiety that goes along with that. When children come to school and tell their teacher, I wasn't treated fairly on the bus, there was a conflict, that requires instructional time that teachers have to sit down and comfort that child. I'm bringing up the issue of safety, and I want to make a recommendation that you and the school board set aside funding for paid chaperone or personnel to ride those buses. And in fact, this option 1 or 2, whichever option it is, our kids will still be on buses, that you set aside funding, specially set aside for children who are transported throughout our city to the public schools. Because what I have experienced in the classroom is children often feel unsafe. And safety is a basic need. And caring is one of the elements of cultural competence. And being that we have in place equity, policy, cultural competency surely falls under that. And one of the aspects is making sure our kids are cared for and are safe. So I'm asking that you set aside funding. You do not transport not one more child until you consider placing safety measures on those buses. We cannot depend on our bus drivers because their purpose is to drive those buses. We need other personnel on those buses who will make sure our kids are safe. So I'm asking, this is a recommendation, it's being documented, and I really hope that you will take it into consideration. Now, another thing is, I don't devalue the amount of time and the work that you put into this. It seems like you've been planning this a long time. And in the back of my mind, I can only think that you were planning it when you were also planning the closing of public school. So, with that said and done, I think that, more time should be given, more community input, thank you, and more reassurance of safety for our children, because that's the number one thing that should come to the forefront. How are we going to keep our kids safe and educated? How are we going to provide for them? And if that costs more money, so be it.
Is it my turn? All right, well, I've been waiting.
I've been waiting a really long time. Okay. It's really serendipitous that I would follow Ms. Porter, as my daughter went to Humboldt for 3 years before it was closed down last year, and I was eagerly anticipating her being old enough to be in Ms. Porter's classroom. I live just down the street here, and I was really sad to see Humboldt closed, but I'm also really grateful to be able to go to Chisto, and for Mr. Galati, and for the other parents in this room, and for the warm welcome that we've gotten there. It's very disheartening to be a parent in a neighborhood that I love, to have my children now, I have a kindergartner and a third grader, for me to have to say, I'm sorry kids, your school's going to get shuffled around again next year. I'm a social worker, my husband's a teacher. We are both deeply committed to public education for the same reason that people in this room are, and we're deeply committed to believing that community starts where school starts, especially at the elementary levels. I'm not sure how much longer. I'm not really willing to have my kids go to a different elementary school every year. That is not acceptable for my family. I guess I could choose to move to Alameda or Irvington or over on the west side, but that's not what I want for my family either. So if you're asking for a solution, I think people here have said it's about long-term planning and it's about some enrollment issues. And we've also had some brave people who have been willing to say this is about historically racism in classrooms and gentrification. So thank you for having the courage to speak that out loud. And I also think that whereas I know the district spends time teaching people how to have courageous conversations, I would like to see you initiate one. And the way that that would look is that if the Oregonian tomorrow says Superintendent Smith puts this on hold and is going to admit that the elephant in the room is a bigger problem than just what falls on your shoulders, but that this is about being black and being poor and being in North and Northeast Portland. Than what our schools represent. And I would really like for the school board and for you, Ms. Smith, to say this is not right, and it's not just because it's not right on your clock, okay? My current role is that I am an executive coach and I do leadership development. And just yesterday, I sat with the vice president and I said, the best leaders have humility. And that means they're not scared to say, either I personally screwed up or the people before me screwed up, and make it right. So you might not have a plan on how to do that in 2 weeks or in 2 months, but you can still own up to the fact that this school district has failed.
So I just want to say that childcare, we took those down. There's about 13 kids who are still there, and the workers are needing to go. If you do have children there, if you would please. And I think we're going to have time for...
Wait, if we're sending people out for childcare, then I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up so that I'm not having the group disperse.
Vernon's got to talk, come on.
Okay, go ahead. But I do want to just do a wrap up while we've still got people here.
All right, thanks. I'll be real short. My name is, I'm Vern the Owl from Vernon. I'm the mascot. also known as Chris Lamb, the PTA president, and I've gone to a lot of these meetings, and I think the common thing I've heard from just about everyone in the cluster is, save our schools, build our communities. We've worked hard to build our communities, but Carol, you were at a lunch at our school the other day, and to see our relationship with East Portland Rotary and raising money through our auction and their grant to bring music back to Vernon is what we need to do. We need to get people to get excited about our schools, to buy into it, to increase the capture rate, and stop the transfer policy so that if we build up from a 50% capture rate to 60 or 70, we'll fill the schools. And we'll be able to then offer the program, and people will be excited. So I just want to stress, save our schools. I don't think the solution is closing them, but we need to have some good publicity of what we're doing in our schools, and so that people that don't go to our schools know about these things, and say, wow, you know what? I had no idea they had music at Vernon. I had no idea they got an art teacher this year. And if you don't publicize it, all they hear is the bad stuff. When I read the paper today, all I heard is about this meeting coming up and all the tension, anxiety people have. And I wanted to, if we're going to really build a community, let's tell the good sides too. All right? Thank you.
Okay, Vern the Owl, I think, summed it up well. Thank you, Vern. You guys, I just want to say thank you so much for this conversation here, and I appreciate the call for courageous conversations. That is what we're doing in our district. And it is about just speaking your truth, staying engaged, experiencing discomfort, room is full of it, and expecting non-closure, which I'm going to leave you with today, just because I feel like what I have heard, and I feel like I've gotten really good themes and really good unified messages from this cluster and from this community about things that you care about and things that you want to see happen, both about the process and about the outcome. I'm now leaving to go do conversations with our principals and collectively talking about what we've heard and what sense and how we move forward. I got strong messages, again, about how you want to be engaged in the process, how you want to be the district to support you in reinvesting in your schools, that you want your elementary schools in particular to be neighborhood-based and to have us investing in that. I think our conundrum of what we do with our middle grades remains that, and I'll see what I get from my principals and what we've heard here today. But I will just say thank you so much for putting your voice on this, and which I feel like people really did come and put your voice on this, and it was important to have all cluster conversation. So thank you for being here today, and stay tuned. We're still in this, so have a good rest of your day today.
All right, so everything's winding down. I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. Man, that was long.
Yo vi salir unas personas, a ver si no se...